Good morning. We are live from Las Vegas, and I am joined by Professor Haddad, the editor-in-chief of the Bone and Joint Journal, who's given up a couple of minutes of his very busy morning to just answer a couple of questions that came to us from our users. So thanks for joining us, Faris.
Thank you, Emma. It's good morning, everyone.
So there's a lot of talk at the moment about prosthetic infection and how to treat it. Perhaps you could tell us what's changing in this area and what evidence we should be looking at.
Thanks, Emma. It's a really key area because as an orthopedic community, we're increasingly aware of it in our midst in every subspecialty, but it's an area where our progress has been very slow over the last 30 years. So there's lots and lots of discussion going on about how we optimize research into the prevention of infection, which may ultimately be the most important thing, the diagnosis, and of course, ultimately, the treatment. The reality here is that there has been a push towards making agreement based on current literature rather than perhaps pushing where new research is needed. And the really critical thing here is to appreciate that we need to look at all types of data, particularly the randomized studies and the big cohort studies, to understand what's going on here and not just rely on registry data, which is poor at infection, and certainly not just rely on consensus, because consensus, although very useful, is often self-interested people who have perhaps other objectives here. So very, very important in terms of infection to look at the whole breadth of what's out there and to focus on the literature and understand the strengths and weaknesses of each data set that we're looking at.
So that brings us on to a subject very close to our hearts, publishing. And there are thousands of journals out there. So how do you choose where to publish and how to read good evidence?
That's a really good question, and I think it's one that I'm asked by readers everywhere, wherever I go, because there is now a challenge. Although open publishing has been a great thing overall for giving people access to research and for letting scientists and researchers put their research out there, it's also opened up a whole spectre of predatory journals that can mimic what happens with the high quality journals and publish material that may not have been through appropriate rigorous peer review and doesn't really stand up to scrutiny. So I think what you have to do as an individual is actually drill down and look at every piece of research. If you can look at it and see whether it is properly hypothecated, whether the methodology is sound, and whether the findings are actually reflected in the conclusions, that's a long way to go in terms of appreciating whether something is valid or not. The easy way to do that, of course, is to trust the long-established journals like the Bone and Joint Journal, where we, if you like, do that process for you. So we make sure the material that's published is sound, is methodologically carefully assessed, and that it is actually real in terms of the messages that it puts out.
Yeah, it's a really important field.
So I think that's something we've got to focus on. All of us, anything can get published now, and you've just got to make sure the material you're quoting, the material you're using to make your point, and above all, the material you're using to change your practice and treat your patients has been through a valid peer review, a strong editorial process, and actually is real and makes sense.
Fabulous. Well, thank you. And we're really looking forward to your session this afternoon on publishing with a couple of the other big journals. So thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Emma. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you. Oh my God.